Shout out to G-Man Boxing.
Alright, people. Midweek report time. Oh boy. We got some stuff to talk about on this one. I think I'm going to start. I want to start with something that was reported by Boxing Scene today. I have the article here. So, we were told that Anthony Joshua was going to have his comeback fight after Alexander Usyk in December. We were looking at specific dates, but it was reported December 17th in London against one of two. Potentially Chris Arreola or Otto Wallin. Well, it's looking like that's being put on the back burner, certainly for the time being. It's now understood that Joshua won't return at all this year. Instead, he's going to return in early 2023 instead. Now, it's not specifying when exactly early 2023 is. I wouldn't imagine it would be January, so we'll probably talk February, March. We just still consider April early 2023, or are we getting into the mid-stage then? But that's what it's looking like here. It's not really giving... I'm just checking the article here. Yeah, it's not really... Oh, yeah, it says here. Negotiations, blah, 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 for Tyson Fury. It is likely he'll box in February or early March. Possibly ahead of a rematch with Dillian White next summer. Whyte is due to make a return to the ring. His own return to the ring, which we'll talk about now in a sec, having lost to Fury. Okay, so we're looking at April we're looking at March or February. Joshua's been training with Fernandez, although future plans of work with Robert Garcia, who joined his team for Alexander Usyk, are unclear. That's not really what I'd like to see, truth be told. I do think that I have my reservations about working with Robert Garcia when he announced it, but I don't know, a part of me thinks maybe he'd be best off just going over to America, basing himself over there, certainly for this camp, and just seeing how he gets on working with Robert Garcia. No disrespect to Fernandez. He is a little bit unproven, isn't he? I think maybe with Joshua, maybe he needs a trainer who not only has... I know Garcia is not really experienced with heavyweights, but maybe understanding how to build a fighter back up. And I don't know if Robert Garcia, or I don't know if Adrian Fernandez is the sort of person to do that. Maybe he is, I don't know. But we'll wait and see. So Anthony Joshua, hopes to seeing him this year. Ain't going to happen now, apparently. It's going to be early 2023. I'm indifferent. Like, I don't envision AJ being in... I'd be very surprised if he's in a real big 50-50 fight at all in 2023, to be honest with you. I think this is a chance for him to really rebuild, to try and develop more as a fighter. Because let's be forget, right? He won that title off Charles Martin 6 years ago. 6 years ago last April. And that year, yeah, he didn't really... He had little step-ups. You know, if he called Dominic Breazeale a step-up, Eric Molina wasn't really. But then 2017, from then on, he's been at the sharp end of the stick, you know? I mean, he really has been fighting whoever really is put in front of him, truth be told. I mean, he fought Klitschko. I think at the time, you know, it's easy to look back at rose-tinted specs and say, oh, that was, you know... that was Klitschko, or was I say with the benefit of hindsight, and say, oh, Klitschko was 42, or was he? Well, he was definitely 40, but he was out of the ring for a while, and you know, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, that was still a very, very dangerous fight for Anthony Joshua, given his experience. Goes in there against Carlos Takam, then into a unification with Parker, Povetkin, Andy Ruiz both times. You know, Joshua's not had it easy for the last 5 years. And he shouldn't have had it easy. He was a world champion. He was a unified champion, so he shouldn't have had it easy. But he has a chance now to have the learning fights that he never had back then. And I wonder, is it too late now? Because I think if Anthony Joshua, if they hadn't have gone down the... And look, we'll only really know when it's all said and done, if it was a mistake to take the Charles Martin fight when we did. Not to say, you know, fighting him was a risk, but to put a title on him so soon... We can only probably wait until his career is all said and done and maybe have a look back then. But I think AJ would have benefited more having fights like he's going to be having in 2023, back in 2016. Would have helped develop him. I wonder, is he a bit too long in the tooth now? But you never know. In terms of Dillian White versus Jermaine Franklin, nearly a done deal for November 26th at the Wembley Arena. Now this will apparently be on DAZN. So that's expected to be the main event. So Dillian White back on the zone against Franklin. Now Franklin, I've seen a few of his fights. He's nothing really special. Like, he's 21-0 with 14 knockouts, but he's really not. He's not anything special. They tried to get him as an opponent. Well, he was actually, I tell you, he was talked about as an opponent for October last year when Dillian White was meant to fight Otto Wallin. It ended up being Wallin. Again, I've not really seen anything. I've not really seen anything from him. I mean, like, he's fought once since a victory over Pavel Savas in October 2019, so he's been fairly inactive. And Pavel Sowers, probably saying his name completely all over the place, such an easy name. He's a guy who normally gets stopped early. You know, sure, I think you can stop them early. So if you're going the distance with him, it's not ideal. And Franklin, as I said, he's not looked amazing. So you would imagine that Dillian White should have the beating of him. You would imagine anyway you should have the beating of him. Now that's going to be on the zone. So it's another fight night for the zone, which is good because we're not getting many of them. But the only issue, it's not the zone. Well, it's an issue that just seems almost universal in British boxing now. So Dillian White is penciled in right here for November 26th in the Wembley Arena, which is in London. Well, at the O2 in London, a Queensberry show, Zach Parker versus John Ryder, and the Alexandra Palace, also in London, Miguel Lawson versus Dion Juman, a boxer show, again in London. 3 different promoters, 3 different networks, in 3 different parts of London, all on the one night. Really? I hate it when promoters do this, and I can't believe it's the 3 of them. So you got the Zone, BT and Queensberry, a Boxer and Sky, all with a show on, all with, like, I don't like that. I don't like that. You know what, right? I know, look, obviously with regards to the arena and events and stuff like that, you never really know, but surely one of them could have been put on maybe like that Boxer show, surely they could have done that on a Friday. Surely they could have done that on a Friday. Could Dillian White not have fought a different time maybe, or you know, maybe he wouldn't get the kind of money he wanted, but would they not maybe take a risk and maybe have him as co-main on maybe Josh Warrington's undercard? Maybe build that show up a little bit, happen in December, and then maybe Dillian White just wants to be the main. I mean, there's good fights there. I would probably say the one that intrigues me the most is Zach Parker versus John Ryder, which was just announced, I think, only in the last day. So that's probably going to be the one that I'm most keen to watch, and it will be on a Queensberry show of all. Even though I do like the heavyweights, that would be. This is why I don't like it, because there's fights that are clashing. I really don't like it when promoters do this, and especially this. Like, I mean, it's 3 shows on the same day, all in London. Yeah, different parts of London. I'm not quite sure whereabouts in London Alexandra Palace is. Obviously, I know where the O2 is, and I know where Wembley is. I've not been in the O2, but I've been by it loads of times, and I've been in the Wembley Arena. I know where that is. I'm not sure where the Alexandra Palace, whereabouts in London that is. Someone's going to want to maybe let me know in the comments exactly where it is. I know of the Alexandra Palace, the darts arena, but I can say I've never been to it. But yeah, that's not ideal. It's not ideal having them all on the same day in the same city. The Zach Parker John Ryder fight, just to give my 2 cents on it, it's an interesting fight. I can see that fight being quite good. I can actually see that fight being quite good. Gun to my head, who I think would win? That's an interesting one. You see, John Ryder is a lot more proven than Zach Parker. I'll never forget the Zach Parker Darryl Williamson fight where he got a gift. He got a gift in that fight. He didn't win that fight. But John Ryder, I thought he lost his last fight against Danny Jacobs. It was close, but I thought Jacobs just nicked it. Honestly, probably gun to my head, I'd probably edge it to Zach Parker. Probably, just maybe, because I'm just struggling to pick a winner in that fight. That's a real fight where I'm looking at it and I'm just like, I can't pick between them. I cannot pick a winner in that fight. I really can't. Yeah, again, probably gun to my head, I'd probably say Zach Parker. And maybe it's the fight that I'm most interested in. So it might be the fight I watch, but saying that, I love heavyweights at the same time. Even though I'm pretty sure Dillian White has the beating of Jermaine Franklin, I'm pretty sure that Zach Parker versus John Ryder is a good fight. And it's an interesting one. I'm not 100% sure who I take in that fight. I really amn't sure who I take in that fight. Now, I seen this quote from Nigel Benn. It was in relation to the Conor Benn Chris Eubank Jr. fight, more in relation to the making weight. He said that when he's seen Eubank, he's seen how he was looking, he actually said he texted Eubank Sr. saying, "Sorry, I didn't realise. I said to Conor, if you do fight him, he's not fighting at 157. I want you to fight him at 160. Hinting, of course, to, or referring, of course, I should say, to Eubank Jr. weighing in at 157 pounds. And look, we seen him weigh in on the Saturday voluntarily. He was 159. I thought he looked awful. Absolutely drawn in the face. Didn't look good at all at that weight. And you know something? One would make you wonder, how long can he even make 160? Because he looked quite bad. And 159, you see a lot of fighters who weigh in at middleweight would maybe come in at that just because that's just the way in. You know, some of them misjudge it. They maybe come in a pound lighter. You got to wonder how long he can even make 160. But again, it just looks so bad. At the end of the day, the fact that you had Eubank Jr. potentially looking dangerously bad, trying to get to 157, sticking a rehydration clause on that, and then failing a drugs test on top of that, it just looks so bad. I cannot even explain how bad a look that is. So, the investigation with Conor Benn is ongoing. I think with UCAD, with the board and everything. So we'll wait in here and see what happens there. We're all keeping our eyes on that. Have no doubt about that. In terms of British fights that are being announced, I quite like this fight, and I believe it's going to be on Channel 5 as well, which is even better. So be on free to air. Troy Williamson will defend his British super welterweight title against Josh Kelly on December 2nd in Newcastle. Really, really excited about that fight. Really looking forward to it. Apparently it's going to be on Channel 5, so again, free to air. Boxing needs that. Not just necessarily this fight, but it needs fights of this magnitude. Good, solid, competitive British level fights on terrestrial TV. I think that is one thing that will really... People always talk about what will help boxing. I think more terrestrial TV stations buying up boxing and putting our promoters work with terrestrial TV stations like Channel 5, ITV, etc. airing boxing and showing it. Channel 5 showing a fight like this, it's going to do some decent numbers, you would imagine. It's a competitive fight, very competitive. I'll talk about that now in a sec. But I think as well as that, it's not just the fact that it's good for boxing because it's free, it gives it to a wider market. Because at the end of the day, if you're talking about a Friday night where there's nothing on TV, you know, the football is over for the night because there's normally only one game televised anyway, whether it's a Champions League or Premier League game. Maybe there's nothing else on. You have the boxing, it's there free, and it's good competitive fights. People will watch it. So I think that's a good move, putting that on Channel 5. And I think as well as that, it helps build stars. It gets names out there. I mean, lest we forget Chris Eubank Sr., Nigel Benn, Carl Froch, James DeGale, Chris Eubank Jr. They've all fought on terrestrial TV. All been there, seen it and done it. And it's helped them. It helps build their profile, put them on terrestrial TV. So I'm glad they're doing that. I think more promoters should look at even putting some smaller shows on terrestrial TV, truth be told, because at the end of the day, it's boxing is boxing. You know, you'll watch it. And again, good competitive fights like this. In terms of how I see the fight going, I would be... Me right now, I'm picking Troy Williamson to win this fight, probably by knockout. Probably by knockout or points. I've said this once, I'll say it again. I never bought into the hype with Josh Kelly. I wasn't surprised having ECM beat him the way he did. I was kind of surprised the way he capitulated so quick. That did kind of surprise me. I didn't expect him to fold so quickly when the going got tough in there. And he was cut above the head. He was getting hit a lot. He was taking a bit of a beating. But it was the fact that he just seemed to just almost run out of ideas so quickly. I didn't expect that. I expected, Josh Kelly to at least make a stand. But saying that, look, we don't know what was going on, how badly hurt he was, how bad the cut. I think the cut was on the top of the head. Don't know how bad that affected him. But I wasn't surprised that something like that happened to Josh Kelly. I really did think they got carried away with him. I think that Adam Booth, Eddie Hearn. I think Adam Booth had what he wanted in a fighter. He likes working with athletic fighters, really athletic. And I think with Kelly, the athleticism almost mesmerised even Adam Booth. Because Kelly's tremendously athletic, he is. But when you look at Josh Kelly, even fighting journeyman, you could see that there was flaws there. You could see defensive flaws there. You could see that style, he had the athleticism to make it work to a certain extent, but there was other attributes he didn't have. He didn't have the punching power to make that style work. And I felt as well he didn't have the arm length to make that style work. I felt that Josh Kelly could get either outboxed or pressured quite badly. And I think that his reflexes are good, but they're not as good as certain people made him out to be, because he was still able to get tagged a bit, even by journeyman. So I never felt that Josh Kelly was what they made him out to be. And I think there was times where they really did push him a little bit too hard. Like, lest we forget, right, he fought David Avanesian in 2021. And I felt that was too soon. They originally wanted to put him in with Avanesian in 2018. Do you remember that? Was it on... God, what card was it on? It was either Bellew Hay... No, was it Bellew Hay? No, it wasn't Bellew Hay 2. It was a card in late 2018. Might have been Kell Brook versus Arafa. Might have been that one. Or might have actually been Usyk versus Bellew, because I know it was late. I think it might have been that one, where they had him penciled in. I think they weighed in and everything for him to fight Avanesian, but they pulled it on the last minute. They said Kelly was sick, and I think that was because they knew at the time that was too soon. And that was 2018. When he fought him in 2021, that was still too soon. I don't think Kelly's ever really got over that loss, because I haven't been impressed with him since he's come back. And I think Williamson is a fighter. He tends to perform better when the opponent is there. And what I mean by that is he had a great performance against Ted Cheeseman. I expected him to win in a tough fight against Ted Cheeseman, but I didn't expect him to knock him out like that. And then he goes and fights Mason Cartwright, who you wouldn't say is as formidable as a Ted Cheeseman, but he really struggled in that fight. Many people felt that he lost that fight. That was back in March. So against Kelly, I think that against someone like Josh Kelly, we will see the best of Troy Williamson, and I think his best is good enough to get by Josh Kelly, long and the short of it. In terms of other fights that are being announced, Dave Benavidez versus Jose Uzcategui is reportedly finalised for January. That was meant to happen last year, I believe, but Uzcategui failed the drugs test. Then Dave Benavidez has failed the drugs test too, once, I believe. I don't think it was twice. And the time he did fail it, he was having a bit of the old "how you doing" outside of camp. But he failed it, and rightfully so. He was stripped of his title. Uzcategui, I think it was a performance enhancer. I could no more want it. I literally, like, I'd rather see Benavidez versus Canelo or Charlo. Why we're seeing this fight is beyond me, but hey, or I'd love to see actually Benavidez. Caliplant got a win over the weekend. Why doesn't he fight Caliplant? Answers on the postcard. Because Caliplant's already beaten Uzcategui. Beat him for the title, actually, a couple of years ago. Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall, reportedly now agreed for February 4th. I don't understand that. Like, I understand the rematch, but almost a year to the day after the first fight, I think that's... I just don't understand why they held it back so much. Because I think that fight, if they'd done it this summer just gone, that would have been a bigger fight. Because the memory of that fight, the first fight, is still fresh in people's minds. The robbery is still fresh in people's minds, and I think people would have came to see it. I still think that people will come to see this fight, but I think it's many, many, many months too late. Many months too late. In terms of how I feel this fight will go, look, Jack Catterall should have won the first fight, and I think myself included, I didn't give Catterall the credit he deserved, because he is a good fighter. But I think that Josh Taylor will improve a lot more in this fight. And I personally don't see Jack Catterall winning, truth be told. Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora 3. I'm hearing rumours that they were going to have the announcement tomorrow. Reportedly set to take place not in Cardiff in the Principality Stadium, but in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London on December the 3rd. Right. look, it is what it is. I mean, I'd rather see him fight Chisora than Char, but I can't sit here and say it's the fight I want to see. I can't sit here with a straight face and say I want to see it. Truth be told, I'd rather see Tyson Fury hold out until next year, and at least that way we can see him fight Alexander Usyk. But look, it's seemingly a done deal now. I'm hearing rumours that we're going to have an announcement, maybe even a press conference tomorrow, potentially, or certainly getting ready for a press conference. So it looks like the fight is signed and sealed, probably on pay-per-view as well, in a stadium in London. Made more sense for me to do it in London as well, because Chisora has a massive fan base in London, and I think a lot of people would tune in, would come to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I do remember people telling me when AJ fought there that it wasn't the easiest to get in and out of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So that might be an issue for some people if they've been to AJ Usyk. It wasn't the easiest to get in and out of. Apparently on the undercard you're going to have Daniel Dubois versus Kevin Lerena. That was meant to take place, or reportedly agreed to take place, in November, on November 26th. I mean, there's so many fights. Even Frank Warren wouldn't do two separate cards that one night. So I'd imagine that would be co-main. Yeah, we'll see how. Well, hopefully they'll get him into a big fight next year. Hopefully, the WBC are set to order at their WBC annual convention next month a final eliminator to determine the mandatory for Tyson Fury. Looks likely it's going to be Deontay Wilder versus Andy Ruiz. No real surprise, I don't think, with anyone that was the fight they were looking to do next. Deontay Wilder versus Andy Ruiz. I think that Deontay Wilder beats Andy Ruiz, long and the short of it. If they did that early next year, or early summer next year, I'd be making Wilder favourite, probably by knockout. I think whilst Ruiz, his hand speed, the combination punching could cause Wilder some issues, definitely cause him some issues. That slow-footedness, the lack of head movement, lack of defence, open to a right hand. Oh, I can see. Look, Andy Ruiz has a good chin. He does. He's got a very good chin. But there's having a good chin, and then there's Deontay Wilder's right hand. And I really don't care how good your chin is. You get hit with that right hand, you're going to have problems. Serious problems. So I don't care if Ruiz has a really, really good chin. If he takes one of them right hands from Wilder, he's going to have problems. It's just that I think that's what he's going to have, serious problems. That could mean we could potentially get Wilder Fury 4 potentially next year, God forbid. But stranger things have happened, you never know. As I said, with the Tyson Fury Derek Chisora situation, my preference would be undisputed. I think that's everyone's preference. I hope we get to see that next year. And you know, the only worry I really have for Fury versus Chisora, I can't say, look, I'd be amazed, dumbstruck if Chisora could pull the upset. I'd literally, I wouldn't know what to say. But the only worry I'd have is not that Fury, loses and then we're back, the undisputed is put in the back burner. That maybe he just, look, it's boxing. These things can happen. You throw a shot, you hit an elbow, broken hand, or clash of heads, massive cut. Fight with Usyk ends up getting pushed back months, and mandatories come into play, and all this kind of stuff can happen. I hope that's the only kind of real worry I'd have for Tyson Fury versus Chisora. Now, I can't imagine a clash of heads causing a cut would happen, but you never know. With boxing, you only have to throw a punch wrong, hit the wrong body part, hit an elbow, and then boom, you have an injury to the hand, and then that could be, you could be out for 4 or 5 months before you could throw properly again, and it just pushes the fight back. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully it's a straightforward run in for Tyson Fury. He gets through Chisora next year, undisputed, all the marbles at heavyweight. We all want to see it. We all want to see undisputed. As I said, the 2 fights in boxing I want to see in this order: Crawford Spence, and I really don't want to see any more news on Crawford Spence being reported by any of the boxing forums until I know definitively we are getting this fight, because I will start getting my hopes up November 19th. I was like, really, we're going to get Crawford Spence? And of course, that is a fight that I would 100% do a watch along for. Well, I'd be up all night waiting for that fight. That's my number 1 fight in boxing I want to see. And obviously Fury Usyk is the second. And again, I hope to God we get to see both of them next year. You know, I really do. Crawford Spence is an interesting one before I finish, because the longer it goes, the more I'm favouring Errol Spence. Because Crawford's been out of the ring now for a year, nearly a year. And if he doesn't, he's not going to fight this year, I would imagine, because he's not with anyone. He's not got any promoter. He's not with Top Rank. He's not, as far as I know, he's not with PBC unless something's changed in the meantime. But he's not going to get a run out this year. I would imagine not anyway. So yeah, his next fight could potentially be against Spence, and at least Spence has had a fight in the end. He looked quite good against Yordenis Ugas. He looked quite good against him. So yeah, we shall wait and see how it goes. I think I've covered most of the news. Yeah, I think that's good. So midweek report. We'll chat to you tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Obviously, if any news breaks with Fury, Ben, etc., I'm working from home now the next 2 weeks, so you won't have to see the car. I have the chair, stand, everything. So yeah, I won't be having to run out to the car to do any videos. So if any news breaks, your boy will have it. So for now, I'll talk to these people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, peeps. I'll talk to you. Peace.